Hi friends, in this video we are going to study about the project risk management processes as per PMBOK. Project risk is a uncertain event or condition that if occurs has a positive or negative effect of one or more project objectives such as the scope, schedule, cost and the quality. Risk management is the process of identifying, assessing, and controlling the threats to an organization's capital and its earnings. Therefore, the project risk management processes listed in PMBOK are plan risk management, identifying risk, perform qualitative risk analysis, perform quantitative risk analysis, plan risk responses, implement risk responses, and monitor risk. Today, we will discuss some of these important processes. The project risk management process are used to identify the various risks, plan the management, carry out analysis, make quick response to it, and then monitor and control these risks. The main objective of any risk management is always to decrease the risk in the project so that its impact or probability is reduced and optimize the chances of project success. More is the risk, less is the success. Hence, we must always tend to reduce risk. Planned risk management is the process of defining how to conduct risk management activities for a project, whereas identifying risk is the project of identifying individual project risk is sources of overall project risk and documenting their characteristics. Perform qualitative risk analysis prioritizes the individual project risk for further analysis or action and will assign probability of occurrence and the risk impact as well as some other characteristics to each of these risks. For quantitative risk analysis, the process of numerically analyzing the risk identified begins. In planned risk responses, the process of developing options, selecting strategies, and agreeing on actions to address the overall project risk exposure and to treat these risks is determined. Implement risk responses is the process of implementing the agreed upon risk response or the mitigation strategies. Last is monitor risk, which is the process of monitoring the implementation of agreed upon risk response plans, tracking the identified risk, identifying and analyzing new risks that comes out during the execution phase of the project, and evaluating the risk processes effectiveness throughout the project. If there is any change, you can directly update plan. Moving further into depth about plan risk management, the first process. Plan risk management is the process of defining how to conduct the risk management activities for a project. Risk management plan is vital to communicate with and obtain agreement and support from all stakeholders to ensure that the project risk management process is supported and performed effectively over the entire project life cycle. The main inputs that is required for this process is the project management plan, project charter, the stakeholder registered, enterprise or environmental factors, organization process assets. Next is the tools and techniques. The various techniques used here are the analytical skills, expert judgment, meetings, and the output we receive is risk management plan. Let us discuss each of them in detail. The planned risk management data flow is shown where from the inputs like the project charter, the project management plan, project documents like stakeholder register, and environment and organizational factors contribute to give identifying risk, perform qualitative risk, perform quantitative risk analysis, and plan the risk responses. The main inputs required for preparing this risk management plan is the project management plan, which provides a baseline or current state of the risk affected areas, including scope, schedule, and cost. The project charter provides various inputs such as high level risk, high level project description, and high level requirements. While project documents such as the stakeholder register contains all details related to the project stakeholders and their importance and their roles. Enterprise environmental factors are those factors that can influence the planned risk management process and describes the degree of risk that an organization can withstand according to its risk appetite. The organizational process assets are the plans, processes, policies, procedures, and knowledge bases specific to and used by the performing organization. We then come to tools and techniques, that is, how to evaluate this input data. First is data analysis techniques that can be used to process, including the stakeholder analysis to determine the risk appetite for each of the project stakeholders. Expert judgment is very important in risk management, considering the specialized knowledge which is required to identify them. Next is carrying out meetings. Project kickoff meeting or a specific planning meeting can be held where attendees, including the project manager or select project team members, key stakeholders, are responsible to manage the risk process time to time. Others outside the organization can also be invited if needed. Thus, in output for risk management plan, following are the contents that is included. There is strategy and methodology, roles and responsibilities for each of the risk, funding, timing, the risk categories, definitions of risk, probability and impact for the project, probability and impact matrix, stakeholders' risk appetite calculation, reporting formats, and tracking of the risk. So, the first being risk strategy and methodology, which gives the general approach to managing risk as specific approaches, tools, and data sources used to perform risk management on the project. While roles and responsibility defines the roles of team members for each type of activity described in the risk. Funding means getting funds needed to perform the activities related to the risk management. Also, establish a protocol for use of contingency and material reserves, while timing is establishing risk management activities for inclusion into the project schedules. As we have seen in Primavera, that is a inherent option to prepare the risk register and further monitor risks. Stakeholder risk appetite, it should be expressed as the measurable risk threshold around each project objective. If the risk is within the risk appetite, only then it can be considered further. The main risk categories or classification of risk done in the following four types, that is technical risk, management risk, commercial risk, and external risk. This gives us the risk breakdown structure to understand each of them in detail. Technical risk can be related to the scope, various definitions, estimates and assumptions, technical processes, technology, and technical interfaces. Management risk deals more with the project management approach, the organization, its communication, resourcing, and operations management. Commercial risk is because of the subcontract issues by suppliers and vendors, internal procurement, partnership and joint ventures, and the contractual terms and conditions. External risk for a project can be because of change in regulations, entry of a competitor, the environmental or weather conditions, site and facility condition, and increase or decrease in exchange rates. Also, political factors, international macroeconomy can also be a risk factor and called as external risk. This is RBS, or risk breakdown structure. Once we have learned this, we can move further to identify the risk easily. For this, the inputs will be the project management plan, the different project documents, agreements, procurement documentation, etc. Whereas the tools and techniques used here is expert judgment, conducting meetings, data analysis, just as we had seen earlier. Here, the data analysis technique used are root cause analysis, SWOT analysis, that is strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat, document analysis, assumption analysis. Then we have interpersonal team skills and get data gathering technique to identify the risk, that is by brainstorming, conducting interviews with experts, and preparing checklist. The output of identify risk process is that we get a risk register where all of this is properly documented. We get a risk report and updates to the project documents. Risk register is a very important output which is further used for risk management. Risk register is deemed to capture the details of identified individual project risk. The risk register may contain limited or extensive risk information depending on the project size. On completion of the identify risk process, the content of the risk register may include, but is not limited to, following. The first is the list of the identified risk. Then we have the potential risk owner, that is, where a potential risk owner has been identified during the risk identification process. It is recorded in the risk register and confirmed later on during the qualitative risk analysis process. Third is the list of potential risk responses for the identified risk. Any kind of response or strategy that comes to the mind, its impact can be recorded. A sample or typical risk register output or format is shown here, where the risk definition is first given into categories, risk assessment and scoring, like the green for low risk, yellow for medium risk, and red for high risk. Its definition for time and cost as per the project requirement and management is decided. Then you start recording the risk in the table below. The main columns here is the reference number, category description, probability, impact, the risk score, the risk status, the probable cost impact, probable time impact. And then we have the risk response action plan, the owner of the risk, and by when the risk will be treated. Once the risk register is prepared, we go to the next step of preparing the qualitative risk analysis. So the risk register with only the identified risk goes as an input into this process. Other inputs are the project management plan, risk management plan, enterprise environmental factors, and the organizational process assets. Similar kind of tools and techniques as we had earlier used to identify the risk is used for analyzing them. The output from this is an updated risk register, updated risk report, updated issue log, and the assumption log. In qualitative risk analysis, we tend to prepare the risk heat matrix or probability versus impact matrix. The green zone here shows the low risk area, that is, if you multiply the likelihood score of 1 with the impact or consequence score of 1, it is 1. Similarly, for 5 multiplied by 5, we get 25, and all other numbers. So the risk score can further be categorized into low risk, moderate risk, high, and extreme risk, which are marked by different color scales. Once we prepare this, we identify which are the most important risks lying in either the high or extreme region that need the most focus. This will bring us to quantitative risk analysis, that is, to determine the true impact in terms of time and cost of the project. The inputs here are the project management plan, project documents. The tools and techniques here is again the same, but the data analysis carried out is special. That is by use of simulations, sensitivity analysis, decision tree analysis, and influence diagram, each of which we'll learn in detail further. The output will be an updated risk report, which will hold the actual result of the risk impact. The first step is simulation. Simulation is a very common worldwide known quantitative risk analysis technique in which a risk model is prepared in a software and the simulations are performed using a Monte Carlo analysis. When running a Monte Carlo analysis for a cost risk, the simulation uses the project cost estimate. When you run it for a schedule risk, it will take the schedule network diagram, its duration estimates, etc. You can also conduct integrated time and cost analysis by using complex computer softwares which are available. Here we can see a typical output or an S curve generated by the Monte Carlo analysis. The total predicted project cost can be seen with the probability of completing it on time. More is the probability of delay, the more will be the cost. Next is sensitivity analysis, which helps to determine individual project risk and other sources of uncertainty which have the most potential impact to affect the project outcomes. One typical display of sensitivity analysis is the tornado diagram, which you can see on the screen. It presents the calculated correlation coefficient for each element of the quantitative risk analysis model that can influence the project outcome. This can include individual projects, risk, even your ambiguity, items of ordered by descent, strength, etc. in the single chart. This is called as a tornado diagram because here you can see the positive values marked with the bar graph on the right hand side while the negative values marked on the left hand side. Hence the appearance of a whirlpool or a tornado. Next, and a very important type of analysis is decision tree analysis, which helps us to take accurate step forward towards making a mitigation strategy. Decision trees plays an important role to select the best alternative course of action whenever in doubt. This decision is taken by calculating the EMV of each of these options, that is the expected monetary value. Then the most optimum path is selected. In this decision tree analysis example, a decision has to be made whether a person must invest 120 million US dollars to build a new plant. It can be a automobile plant, or invest just $50 million to only upgrade the plant to increase its production capacity. The chances that the venture or the factory of creating automobiles will be successful is 60%, and that of failure is 40%. This chance is represented by the chance node shown in circle. Therefore, if there is a strong demand of the vehicle, the person will earn around 200 million. With weak demand, he will earn only 90 million. When there is a strong demand for an upgraded plant, he will earn 120 million. He will not earn complete 200 million as in for building a new plant because there will be constraints in productivity efficiency because of it being old. Also, if there's a weak demand, he has the capacity to earn $60 million. Now we will calculate the net path value, that is, what is the profit in each of these options. In the first option, that is building a new plant and there being a strong demand, you are earning $200 million and spending 120 million. Therefore, the net effective profit is $80 million. Second, if there is weak demand, you earn 90 million and spend 120 million. Therefore, you are at a loss of $30 million. Similar is the case with other two, wherein your net profit comes to as 70 million and 10 million respectively. Now, we will calculate the EMV, or the expected monetary value, of each of these branches. For the first branch, or the building new plant option, EMV is calculated as 60% multiplied by the profit in the first case and 40% multiplied by minus 30 loss. The result is $36 million. In the second case, it is 60% multiplied by 70 million plus 40% multiplied by 10 million. The result is $46 million. Thus, we will select the path having more expected monetary value, that is, it will fetch us more profit. Hence, by this decision tree analysis, we come to a definite conclusion that we must go towards investing $50 million to upgrade the plant only. Last process is to monitor the risks. Monitoring risks is the process of implementing agreed upon the risk response plans, tracking the identified risk, identifying and analyzing new risks, and evaluating risk processes effectively. The key benefit of carrying out this process is that it enables project decisions to be based on current information and about the overall project risk exposure. This process has to be performed throughout the project cycle. Here, the inputs come from all other previous processes like the project management plan, risk management plan, project documents, work performance data, and reports. Tools and techniques involves audit of the risk register, meetings, carrying out data analysis to check on if there is any changes, and the output will be any kind of update to the project documents, about to the organizational learning, to the project management plan. There can be change request to manage those risks, etc. To summarize, we have studied in this video the 7 main types of risk management processes, that is plan risk, identify risk, perform qualitative risk analysis, perform quantitative risk analysis, plan the risk responses, implement risk responses, and to monitor risk. Further, we have seen in detail how risk analysis can be done both in quantitative and qualitative way. Thank you.